College Football Tailgate. It is Wednesday, March 25th. I'm Dan Watkins, joined as always by John McKechnie. John, this is our last show of March. April's here, just about anyway. The NFL draft just a few weeks away. I mean, the end of the semester is coming up too. Football season, it's really not that far away.
It's not. I'm having a daughter, and she is coming allegedly day 3 of the draft.
There we
as
go.
Luck would have it. So that gets me out of a really crappy work day. So she's already coming in the clutch, but we still luckily have some time before she arrives to pod and we're going to keep things going, of course. But spring ball and all that good stuff. I'll still be able to keep a good eye on it.
Very nice. Well, congratulations with the projected day 3 pick. It sounds like anyway. I mean, maybe she sneaks in. Maybe she sneaks into round 2. Who knows on that night 2 there? But hey, anyway, something to look forward to other than football stuff. So we got a lot of stuff to get to. It's kind of it's been a really busy, just nuts and bolts kind of week, I feel like, with college football. We got our guy Bill Connolly over at ESPN just dropping articles every day. We got returning production. We got quarterback rooms. He's talking about turnover rankings and stuff like that too. But anyways, I really want to kind of hone in on his returning production. Something that we, kind of swore off last year after what happened with Clemson and to a lesser extent Penn State, because Clemson had the number 1 returning production going into 2025, and we all know how that went. So we'll talk about that. Notre Dame, the hype train, John, I feel like is just about off the rails at this point with whether you look at sports books or just people talking about what they're expecting from the Irish this season. So I thought, we've talked about all these other teams. Let's throw a spotlight on Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman as he heads into year 5 in South Bend as the head coach there. We're going to talk a little SEC running backs here today too, and the last 1,000 rusher at each school. This has kind of been all over Twitter the past couple of days. So maybe we'll quiz John and see how many guys he can just name that have ran for 1K in the SEC recently here, or maybe not so recent with some schools. You never know, but we'll talk about this list. And then, it's been a while since all of Twitter and all of sports Twitter has just united against one person. But man, Dan Orlovsky is just taking it on the chin after some takes that he had this week about the upcoming NFL draft, more specifically about Ty Simpson and where he ranks when it comes to the quarterbacks in this draft. That was some scorching. The pushback on Orlovsky has been incredible, but really looking forward to all this stuff we got to talk about today.
Old Danny boy just stepping right in it, pretty good.
Running out of the back of the end zone, if you will.
Yeah. So but we'll save a little butane to blowtorch that here at the end.
So we'll get to all that kind of stuff too. President Trump signing an executive order about Army Navy as well. We'll mention that towards the end of the show too. But first, just want to say thank you very much for watching and following along. If you can do us a favor, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. Totally free. We're not going to email you or anything like that. I mean, I'm not. Maybe John will, but I don't know. I'm not.
Probably not.
I mean, the guy's got a baby coming. He's got a baby coming. He can't be busy emailing you guys. So it doesn't cost you anything. Just hit that subscribe button or that follow button if you're listening on podcasts. We are College Football Tailgate on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. We are at that handle on all 3 platforms. You can find us on Twitter at CFB Tailgate 25. And, of course, follow us over on TikTok where there's always a lot of fun in the comments section at CFB Tailgate. All right, so without further ado, let's get to it. Bill Connolly drops his returning production rankings, John, for 2026. Notre Dame, who we're going to talk about in Spotlight, is number 1, returning 72% of their production, most of that on defense. I'll just run down the top 5 quick because a couple names did jump out at me right away. Number 2 in returning production, never would have guessed this, Maryland. So Maryland's going to be number 2 in returning production. We'll see what that means for them in the Big Ten in 2026. But then you got Nebraska at 3, Virginia Tech at 4, and South Carolina at 5. Actually, 5's really a tie here at 68% with Texas, Minnesota, and Georgia also coming in at 68% returning production. So the way that Bill C does this, guys, over at ESPN, it's not just guys that were on the roster in 2025. He also factors in transfer production. So basically, it's anybody that played college football in 2025 and then what team they're on in 2026 and the production and so on and so forth. But, John, as you take a look at this list, anything really jump out to you? For me, number one, obviously, is like it just further kind of cements that Notre Dame hype is real, and this is like a big reason why going into 2026.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that my returning production shock collar did not arrive in the mail in time. So like
right.
I'm yet again going to fall for a bunch of these, but hey, it's all good. But yeah,
maybe we just got daboed. Let's just chalk it up to that.
Let's because Bill did smartly note that not like the entire top 10 was a disaster. Like Texas Tech was an example of a team that fared really well in this metric, that did really well. Kennesaw State obviously won their conference as well, so it's not completely useless. We just had bad luck with buying in fully last year with it. But I think to me, like beyond the Notre Dame detail. Virginia Tech and UCLA, it's not like you're saying they're like all guys that stayed, but there is like a retention element and an element of with the new coaches coming in, being able to bring guys that have actually, stepped foot on the field, but before. So that therein lies like the potential of kind of having a smoother transition and not having that proverbial year zero where it's like everything is a slog. Every week is brutal. You're going to be like a big underdog every single week in conference play, that type of thing. So you can kind of view programs like that were obviously pretty bad last year, like UCLA and Virginia Tech, and feel okay about it. Now, Maryland, of course, was a team that did famously keep their coach despite losing 8 straight games to end the year. But there is talent on that roster. It obviously starts with Malik Washington. But I thought the defense, at least to start the year, was pretty impressive. They had some good edge pieces that Maryland being able to keep things together. It's sort of like the poor man's version of USC, where it's like, okay, like we do have a accumulation of talent here. You got to just trust that it might actually work out for us in 2026. And if it doesn't, you can fire me. I think that we have similar things going on between these obviously vaunted Big Ten rivals. Very, tongue-in-cheek with that for Maryland, but I think we could see them, crack bowl eligibility once again. It's been a little bit for them in that regard, but, it's going to come down to Washington, of course. But interested to hear what else kind of stuck out to you on this.
Yeah, so just starting off towards the top, South Carolina coming in tied for 5th, I believe, overall, but number 2 offense. Like, I'm expecting Lenore Sellers to have a big-time, like, kind of bounce-back year. Not that he was bad in 2025, but to look more like that guy from 2024 that we all thought was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country a year ago. Do you think people going to be sleeping on them a little bit? Like, I feel like the South Carolina team, yes, you got Sellers at quarterback, and then Dylan Stewart's back too, right? On defense.
That's right.
So you have 2 huge players, like big-time players on both sides of the ball. Yes, they had this a year ago. It's just, can Shane Beamer figure this out here and, push the right buttons for the Gamecocks in 2026?
So the Dow of South Carolina under Beamer has been, if there's expectations, they're going to fall short. If everyone has forgotten about them, they're going to surprise you. Which bucket are they in this year? They're in the everyone's forgotten about them bucket. So I am expecting them by that binary to be better this coming season. I am still a believer in Sellers and the talent he has. I don't love the surrounding talent on offense. Like Nick Harbor to me doesn't really rate as a true wide receiver 1. All tools but none of them have really been put together just yet. So I want to see someone emerge in that offense that can be a reliable pass catcher for Sellers. And I want to see that offense. They have a new offense coming in, one that can really kind of maximize Sellers. But if it can do that, then you can talk yourself into. I mean, Vegas is not very high on South Carolina right now. I want to say their win total is like 6.5. I could see them getting over that, and that being one of my favorite totals bets once we get to August.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their schedule right now too. Like this is their September. Home Kent State, home Towson, Mississippi State at home, and then they play Alabama in Tuscaloosa to end the month. But they follow that right up with Kentucky at home. I mean, looking at their schedule, no LSU, no Texas, no Oklahoma, no Ole Miss. like it's there. I mean, they're going to have to be respectable with their SEC record, but I do think that's very much on the table for them in 2026.
Yep. So, but keep an eye on them. Don't completely write them off because of last year. We were probably a little bit over enthusiastic about them going into last season with the way that they ended 2024. But I think with a lot of those same Jimmys and Joes still there, and this is sort of like Beamer's probably last stand. I feel
would
like
say so.
He's probably gone if they have another year like this past year. So everything kind of lines up for them to get back into that respectable range.
Absolutely. Another one that jumped out at me is Ohio State's pretty far down on this list. I believe they're 31st when it comes to returning production. Now, this year is going to be a little different with Ohio State, where you're going to know a lot of the faces on offense, but the defense, John, is like going to be totally overhauled because, well, one, they're losing so much elite talent from that defense where it feels like the first round of the NFL draft is going to have 5 Ohio State guys at least, and that's just on defense. I'm not even talking about Cardinal Tate at this point, who's going to probably be a first-round pick. But that linebacking core completely revamped. The secondary, too, losing Caleb Downs. A lot of new pieces there for the Buckeyes and Ryan Day and Matt Patricia to try to figure out there on defense where, well, maybe September, we got that trip to Austin, could be a little rough for Ohio State, where maybe it takes them a little bit to gel there, and that doesn't happen until maybe in the middle of October.
Yeah, and I think you take the magnifying glass a little bit further, a lot of new pieces on that Ohio State offense or defense. Texas really rates highly in returning offensive production, not just overall, but specifically offensive. They rank number 4 by that metric. So it's a collection of guys that have played together that are going to be ready to go. There's going to be no feeling out process the way it was. I mean, things were so. You just take it back to week 1 last year, right? Watching that Texas offense is have they practiced together at all this summer? What's been going on? And this time around, especially with the way that they ended this past season, the way that they added in the portal and everything, they will have that offensive advantage, especially being at home against an Ohio State team that will be gelling. I mean, Ohio State's a program that can they reload on the fly? Yes, but there's degrees, there's levels to this where it's can you really cleanly replace all of Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Caleb Downs within a short turnaround? That I'm not so sure of. And then if you want to take the magnifying glass a little bit further on some of the other power programs that rate poorly in returning production, this will be an interesting test on Clark Lee and Vanderbilt.
I noted that too.
By my count, they have the least returning production of any power school. So obviously you're restarting without Diego Pavia and Stowers. So that's going to be really interesting for them. Not surprising that Iowa State got pretty gutted by the Campbell move. And old Bill Belichick, he said that they started earlier on recruiting this year, so that seems good. But they still rank 103rd in this metric.
Very good. Yeah. I mean, Bill, I don't know if there's anybody happier that UNC basketball is looking for a new head coach right now than Bill Belichick, maybe to take the spotlight off him for a little bit there as Hubert Davis was let go from UNC earlier this week. I noted Vanderbilt too, 106th overall in returning production, 115 on offense. That thing's going to be completely new. Clark Lee going to be earning that new paycheck for sure this season. Another one, John, Alabama, 90th overall in returning production. We talked about this quarterback situation, that QB battle, but it's a lot of new across the board, especially on offense. 119th on an offensive returning production for the Tide. So Kalen DeBoer, as he enters year 3, going to be interesting there. They desperately, and we talked about this when we put the spotlight on Alabama a few weeks ago, they really need Ryan Williams to look like that guy from a couple years ago.
Exactly, because you not only are losing Jeremy Bernard to the draft, but Isaiah Horton's gone. He was kind of a low key he was one of those X factors that you could help talk yourself into Alabama making a run. Last year, it's like, man, they have so many options in that passing game. Now it's going to be, Ryan Williams and Latsier Brooks are going to have to really do it. You also lose a guy like Josh Cuevas, who I thought was like a super underrated tight end, kind of a real hard hat type of guy. So you replace him. Caden Proctor, of course, on the offensive line. So there's a lot to reconfigure here with that Tide offense. We talked about it a bit a couple weeks ago when we put them under the microscope that they have kind of a softer opening, at least in week one. And I wouldn't be too worried about that Florida State game, but we weren't so worried about it last year either. We know they'll be taking it a little bit more seriously this time around, but a lot of question marks here. This is real rubber meets the road here for DeBoer.
Yeah, and then another one staying in the SEC, Oklahoma ranks 16th overall, but that is heavily weighted because, most of the offense is coming back. They're third in offensive.
Do you have to come back, guys?
Right. That's how I kind of felt looking at this. Like, okay, so you have the third most returning offensive production, but that defense that was so elite last year and what carried them into the college football playoff, 58th in returning production. They lose a lot of pieces, so Brent Venables is going to have the work cut out for him as well there in Norman. I think Oklahoma takes a step back just because I don't know. That offense, it was painful to watch last year. And now maybe a fully healthy John Mateer looks like that guy from September before he had the hand injury, and that could definitely swing this big time. But are they going to figure out the running back situation this year? Or is that just going to be a nightmare again like it was a year ago where we thought the kid from, Ott from California that came in,
Yeah.
we thought he was going to be this
Total
big time.
disappearing act.
Right? Totally disappeared. You got Blaylock comes in for a few times. But, Oklahoma, hopefully they've just been, had their head basically just been buried in their playbook trying to figure something out on offense. I do think Venables is going to be able to get something out of the defense again, but I don't think you can expect it to be the elite of the elite like it was a year ago.
No, you definitely can, and you can project some improvement maybe from the offense with the fact that that there's so much returning, but that can cut both ways. We saw, I think my favorite example for returning production working against you was at Oklahoma State in 2024, where they had everybody coming back.
Ollie Gordon.
But it just completely fell flat. So Oklahoma facing kind of a similar challenge, and who's their Ollie Gordon? We don't know. They ranked 59th in FPI offense last year, so you are dangerously towards the bottom of the power offenses when you're rating that low in terms of offensive efficiency. So I was on radio in Ruston, Louisiana, shout out the sports company yesterday, and they asked me, give me some teams that made the playoff last year that you think are not going to, and they removed Tulane and JMU from consideration. And I said Oklahoma, and I said Texas A&M, and I went on for a little bit as to why I'm not buying OU making it back, and how that win in Tuscaloosa did. It was almost a disservice to them because it completely changed a narrative about them that I think was otherwise deserved, that, hey, they weren't really that good. But they had a great Saturday, and that really carried them for pretty much that final month plus of the season.
Absolutely. It did. I'm glad you brought up James Madison, though, because that was the last one that I wrote down in my notes here. I hope everybody enjoyed JMU getting the spotlight because everything's gone. Everything is gone. Bob Chesney left, and I don't know how much he took with him, but JMU 136th overall in returning production. That is not dead last because we have added two teams to the FBS this year, North Dakota State being one of them, but 136th out of 138 in returning production there for the Dukes. This is a program, John, that over the last, in recent memory, they have figured it out, whether it's with Coach Sig or with Bob Chesney, but I can't even tell you right now off the top of my head who their new coach is, but he's probably going to have a long season there.
Isn't it the old Sunbelt Billy? Billy Napier?
Oh, did Napier go there?
I think so.
Is that? Well, yeah, definitely don't feel good about that then.
No, but he's more comfortable there than the SEC for
Poor
sure.
Billy Napier, man. I don't know. He might have been better just taking the year off. and what he's going to have to rebuild there with James Madison. But I mean, I guess on the other hand, though, if he does guide them to a good season in a bowl, get into a bowl game and all that, then like he does look really good with what he's got to work with there. So
sure.
All right. Very good. All right. Moving on. Let's talk about Notre Dame. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, it feels like the hype train starting to get a little off the rails with the Irish here. They are number one in returning production, according to Bill Connolly. Bill Connolly has them as the number one ranked quarterback situation heading into 2026 with C.J. Carr returning under center for another season. When you talk about guys that aren't coming back, well, they lose their two-headed monster at running back in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. But, you take out a few pieces from that wide receiver room. I think they have backfilled really nicely there, bringing in some nice pieces from the transfer portal, a couple of former five-star blue-chip recruits from Ohio State. But Notre Dame is either the favorite Notre Dame is either the co-favorite or the second favorite, depending on the sports book that you're looking at, to win the national championship. Their win total is at 11.5 plus 160 for them to go 12-0 in the regular season, minus 200 to the under if you think they slip up once. They bring in the number 11 portal class. They bring in the number 2 recruiting class. And John, once again, and we'll get into the schedule here in a few minutes, it's looking like it's going to be a 2-game season once again, just like it was a year ago. Just the difference is that these games are going to come in October and November instead of week 1 and week 2 like last year. But the 2 games I'm talking about, at BYU and home against Miami. Everything else, Notre Dame's probably still going to be favored in both those games. Definitely at home against Miami, but probably on the road at BYU too.
I would imagine so as well. So, I mean, you as the resident Notre Dame expert on the pod, I'll just go ahead and kind of put you on the hot seat here and just grill you a little bit. So how sold are you that Notre Dame can seamlessly, move on without Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love?
I'm not worried about the running back situation, at all. There's some injuries here in spring camp, but I fully expect Aeneas Williams to be ready to go, a guy who I think's averaged over 7 yards per carry in his career. And we've seen this recently with Notre Dame, they've churned out running backs pretty easily. I'm not saying they're going to have another Jeremiah Love, who was one of one and so freaking good. But, I think they can, find another Jadarian Price type with someone like that. And whether it's Aeneas Williams or somebody else that's on this depth chart. But you just look at, through recent memory, right? Josh Adams had some big-time runs at Notre Dame. Audric Estime was the baby bus was pretty good at Notre Dame a few years ago. Kyron Williams, 5-6 years ago now. But, Notre Dame, they've figured out the running back position, no problem. And I also think, too, the offensive line is one of, if not the best in the country. They got some injuries there that they're working through right now, but you got a lot of pieces coming back on the offensive line. C.J. Carr could very well be the number 1 pick in the 2027 draft. We'll find out, but I expect big things from him this season, as do a lot of people. I love their wide receiver room and what they have added and bringing back in both Jordan Faison's coming back, who's that nice little guy in the slot. Jaden Greathouse should be coming off an injury. He'll be back too. Those 2 guys from Ohio State that I mentioned. And then another position that Notre Dame has seemingly just always figured out, especially I think it is tight end in our lifetime. And whether it's going all the way back to someone like a Kyle Rudolph or a Tyler Eifert, or more recently with a Mitchell Evans, who was a really nice piece for them. Cooper Flanagan is the guy I got circled to be that next Notre Dame tight end household name here. So I think they're going to figure out the pieces on offense, and then on defense, it's going to be really good. They're bringing back pretty much the entire unit, as long as Chris Ash doesn't screw this up, and he got much better as the year went on there. But the secondary is elite, probably the best in the country. Led by Leonard Moore, who's going to be a top draft pick next year. Christian Gray is back too. Adams, the safeties, everything is on the table for Notre Dame, where I'm going to be very disappointed if they are not in that Final Four and in the semifinal next season.
Yeah, I would be surprised. I think that the tailwinds are very much working in Notre Dame's favor. I love what Marcus Freeman has built there. They're just 2 years removed from appearing in the national championship game. I'll be surprised as well if they're not at least in the semis, and even mildly surprised if they don't make it all the way to the national championship game. A couple more. So what did you say the tight end's name was?
Cooper Flanagan.
Okay, is that like a guy that they made in a laboratory? Like
It might as well be.
A tight end at Notre Dame named Cooper Flanagan. Give me a break. And then
and he's like 6'7", 272. Like it like
dear God,
it's create a play. That is literally like fire up NCAA and create a player. Like, and where's he going to go? He's going right to Notre Dame.
And I want to know, as someone who knows the Notre Dame roster well, and for people who may not have been paying close attention, a lot of guys on Notre Dame have very famous dads. A lot of them are the sons of very, very good football players. Which one's going to be the best?
That's a great question. I mean, have you seen Jerome Bettis' kid? My God. Like, do you have the list? I got to pull up the list. I sent you the list of names
we got
yesterday.
Like Fitzgerald. We got Plaxico's son.
Yep. These aren't just like Joe Schmo, like NFL players either. These are like Hall of Fame.
Thomas Davis.
Right.
His son.
Where is the Jermichael Finley's kid too?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's wild. But like we've seen this too, like in the past. Like remember, like a few years ago, didn't they have They had Torrey Hunter the third or something like that. They had David Robinson from basketball, his son, the Admiral. He was on the team. Like this has been a thing here with Notre Dame for a while. But yeah, we got Thomas Davis Jr., Devin Fitzgerald, Caden Finley, Elijah Burris, Jerome Bettis Jr., Bryce Young, who is the son of Bryant Young too. So and then of course, I mean, and then you can throw C.J. Carr as the son of an all-time great or a grandson of an all-time great college coach too, with Lloyd Carr there at Michigan.
Is Kennedy Urlacher still on the team?
Oh, that I don't know. Off the top of my head.
It might just be like, they might have just the name doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of these guys were pretty like big time recruits, and yeah, Devin Fitzgerald and Thomas Davis Jr. both coming in, and Finley all part of this year's class. So a lot of name recognition there. I do remember that about David Robinson and Torrey Hunter's kids, but both being there. Would have been cool if David Robinson's son was a 7-foot receiver, though.
He was like 6'5", 6'6". I mean, they did throw quite a few jump balls to him, if I remember correctly, like 5-6 years ago now at this point.
Would have been weird not to.
Absolutely. And then who didn't they? And they had like Bon Jovi's kid at one point too. Like there was like if your dad or grandpa is famous, like Notre Dame has a roster spot for you, basically.
They know all about you.
For sure. So, anyways, big expectations for the Irish. I mean, injuries starting to pile up a little bit, but I really do feel like that's the only thing that's going to derail them is injuries or them getting in their own way. And hopefully, my one hope is that the Marcus Freeman letdown spot is a thing of the past, right? Like, there really wasn't that chance. I mean, I don't know if I would call the A&M loss a letdown spot after what happened in Miami in week 1. That was just more so just the defense just like kind of threw up on itself in the fourth quarter and just like let A&M just kind of run wild there. And then poor Tyler Buckner, who somehow comes up in the middle of it, of course. And then, Notre Dame kicking problems too. That's another side piece that I'm not going to bore you guys with on the podcast, talking about the Notre Dame kicking situation in the month of March. But that was an issue for them that hopefully they've resolved here for 2026. But like I said, either the co-favorite at FanDuel, where they are tied, I believe, for the best odds with Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas, or on DraftKings, they are a little behind Ohio State, who actually DraftKings does have Ohio State. I think like they've separated them a little bit from everyone else.
I think I would fade that personally. I mean, nobody likes betting the favorite this time of year anyway. Like your odds are bad, but I don't know if I'm getting there with Ohio State the same way. Like the offense is gonna be crazy, but like they don't scream like Death Star juggernaut to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, we'll see. But
I mean, I'm fully expecting them to lose in Austin in week 2. So I think if you're going to bet an Ohio State future, wait till the Sunday morning after week 2. I think that's when you'll get your best price there for Ohio State. All right, moving on. Let's talk about some running backs in the SEC. So David Hale Joint on Twitter, who writes for ESPN, I believe, tweeted out the last 1,000-yard rusher in the SEC for each school. And we got some that were in 2025, and we got some dating all the way back to 2019. We got a couple there as well. I think we even have a quarterback on the list too, at least one. So So, and we even have a repeat name on here. Thanks to the transfer portal as well. I'll just give you guys that one. That is Ray Davis, who ran for 1,000 yards at both Vanderbilt in 2022 and then at Kentucky in 2023. But John, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pull this up for our viewers here. I'm going to ask you to either go to a different tab or just not look. And let's see how many of these guys that you can actually name. So let me pull this up here for everybody. Because no one loves just naming some dudes like we do here on College Football Tailgate. But anyways, so as you guys can see, I have shared my screen with you. The last 1,000-yard rusher at each SEC school. Let's see how many of these John can name. And John, let's start off with your alma mater. Who was the last 1,000-yard rusher at Georgia?
I think it's DeAndre Swift.
It is. In 2019, DeAndre Swift ran for 1,000 yards. All right, how about Alabama?
I'll go Najee Harris.
It is not Najee. I think it's a little more recent than Najee Harris. This guy actually in the news this week. It's going to be very confusing for NFL fantasy owners. There's your hint.
Got to be old Brian Robinson then.
Yes, B-Rob, Brian Robinson. Yes, who is now with the Atlanta Falcons. So make sure you are looking at that first name with the Atlanta Falcons running back situation and your fantasy football teams coming up here. We got a couple guys from last season. Let's see how many of these. We got at least, what do we got? 1, 2, 3. We got 4 guys from last year that ran for 1,000 yards. Schools, we got Missouri, Tennessee, Florida, and Kawan Lacey. All these guys, too, coming back for 2026.
So Jaden Baugh at Florida, Ahmad Hardy at Mizzou. Mm-hmm. You said Kawan Lacey at Ole Miss. What was the other school that you mentioned there?
Tennessee.
Did Bishop get there?
He did.
Okay. I was going to say Jalen Wright.
He did. He got there. He signed a massive NIL deal. He will be back in 2026 as he is pretty much going to be that offense, I feel like, with that quarterback situation. How about Texas A&M? Big-time running back in the NFL right now. He is someone that this team, even though they have basically had a fire sale this offseason, has said that they are committed to him as a building block.
My man, Devin Achane, or Devon Achone.
Whatever that is.
Us to say it.
Sure, absolutely. Another guy, actually, I missed one for 2025. This guy's kind of creeping up some mock draft boards. Arkansas.
Oh, Mike Washington.
Mike Washington ran for 1,000 yards. Interesting one here. This guy is still in college, but he has transferred from Texas to Florida State.
Would that be Quinn Wisner?
It would be. 2024, ran for 1,000 yards for Texas. Who else we got here?
And then C.J. Baxter probably would have that year. Now he is at Kentucky, I think.
Okay. All right. Very good. I did mention there's a quarterback on this list.
I was thinking about this one because my guess for LSU was going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire because it's been so bad there. But I'm going to say that Jaden Daniels got his Heisman year.
He did. 2023, Jaden Daniels ran for 1,000 yards. So some of these other ones here, Mississippi State, 2019 was the last time that they had a 1,000-yard rusher.
Okay. All right. So this one I had to plumb deep in the mines for. Was it Kylan Hill?
It was Kylan Hill.
No,
in 2019.
Let's go.
I
was such a big Kylan Hill guy.
I don't even remember him. like
that's okay. Remember, I used to run the college football section at RotoWire, so the Rolodex is pretty sickening.
It's deep. It is deep. You really have to flip through to get that one. All right, some ones that we've missed here. Auburn, 2024.
That would be Jarquez Hunter.
Yep, you are correct. And then, so I got 2 more here. We got Oklahoma in 2022 and South Carolina in 2020.
Dang. All right, I'm off on both of these. For OU, I was going to say Rodney Anderson, and for South Carolina, I was going to say Rocket Sanders, but I guess I am wrong on both of those. Maybe Rico Dowdle for South Carolina?
Nope.
Dang.
I think the Patriots drafted this guy.
Kevin Harris.
Yep.
Oklahoma, I don't know. They used to be every year 1,000-yard rusher, but not lately. Hadn't been so easy. So I couldn't tell you who Oklahoma's is. I'm stumped.
Eric Gray.
Ah, yes. For New York Giant, great.
Yeah. Anyways, so let me make sure I can take down the screen here. And I think we should be back. All right. Thank you for sticking with us through the technical difficulties there, I think. John, is my screen back to just me?
We're still off to the side, it looks like.
All right. Well, I think I have it figured out here now. Anyways, if not, I'll take care of it in post-production. A little behind the scene there for you guys. But I did want to kind of take this, John, and just kind of talk about, well, some SEC running backs for 2026, maybe some dark horse candidates who can get there. Obviously, we had a bunch of guys that are returning in Quan Lacey, Ahmad Hardy, Jaden Baugh, Deshaun Bishop. PFF just put out their top 10 returning running backs for 2026 this week, and the top 3 of the top 4 are SEC guys in Lacey, Hardy, and Baugh. Bishop not on that list, but I like with the quarterback situation there in Knoxville right now, I think he's going to get the ball a lot. Let's just put it that way. He's going to have every opportunity to get to 1,000 yards again. Some guys that I do think are interesting here that could be cracking this list. I think we might see a Georgia Bulldog on this list in 2026. Nate Frazier finished with 947 yards last year. He's back for this season. What do you think? Like, does he get to 1K this year? I mean, it feels like he is going to be on that list.
They had to give him a pretty decent pay bump. I think either Texas or Ohio State was really sniffing around, trying to pluck Frazier. So I think that there's going to be a little bit more work for him this coming season. I believe Josh McCray is gone. They've got like fun other pieces like Peanut and Bowens, but I feel like Frazier's your most conventional 3-down type of back that Georgia has. So he will be busy once again, but they will still rotate. I mean, it's interesting that they haven't had one since 2019, right? So
yeah.
That rotating has been the norm there, but I think on a talent basis, Frazier's right there. I put Quan Lacey as the best running back in college football. I put him above Ahmad Hardy. I think Hardy had like just such a monstrous like first 5 weeks of the season.
Sure.
It wasn't quite as great down the stretch, I didn't feel like, whereas Lacey was a problem every single week all the way through the college football playoffs. So for me, it's like him and Jaden Baugh. Baugh is like so physical. He's such like a kind of throwback physical style runner. He's almost like a souped up version of Blake Corum or something, like just this like ball of nails that's coming at you. Like it's just not fun to tackle that guy. So for that's right there. I would have said Isaac Brown coming into last season. Got a little bit dinged up last year, but keep your eye on him because I think he got dinged up. If he's fully healthy this year, he's really going to be right up near the top of the rushers, I would say, in 2026.
Yeah, and then another guy that health's a giant question mark, but I do think the talent is there, Caden Durham at LSU. Like, he only finished in, like, the 500s last year, but he was hurt. And we know Lane Kiffin, like, that offense, he's going to find creative ways to get him the football. I mean, he was a monster recruit a few years ago. I think he was the best running back in that class, or the top running back in that class. Like, I would expect big things from him in 2026. Another guy, Jeremiah Cobb at Auburn, finished with 969 a year ago. So he's just about there. Like, that's a good quarter. That's a good drive, right? And he's there. It's just going to be, well, what kind of offense is Alex Golish going to run there, especially bringing Brown or Byram over from USF too. And then sneaky one that I could see happening, and I'm curious on your thoughts here because, well, you said they're going to take a step back as a team. Reuben Owens at A&M. He's back for 2026, finished with 639 a year ago. Could he get those? Could we find him another 300 yards there to get him over 1K?
Yeah, I know that Le'Veon Moss is gone, but like I've just never been enamored with their running backs post Devin Achane. Like they're sort of like these plodding guys that a lot of the yards need to be created for them, so they don't really excite me. Looking elsewhere in that like kind of Dust Bowl area, excited to see what Caleb Hawkins does at this level though. coming over from North Texas. He was a freshman phenom last year. You know, part of the reason why North Texas was as good as they were last year, and they bring kind of like the whole offensive identity with them to Stillwater with obviously Mestamaker and Eric Morris going along for the ride as well. But Hawkins, he's built like a guy that can handle, a big workload at a power school like this, and they're going to need him.
Yeah, absolutely. So plenty to keep an eye out there. Maybe we'll do some running back rankings a little further on as we get closer to the season here too, because we've talked so much about quarterbacks and coaches. We got to talk a little bit of running backs, maybe some wide receivers too, as we move throughout the off season here. All right, some other little news items that I do just want to mention real quickly. We don't have to go too in depth here on these or anything like that, but President Trump put out issued an executive order last week, barring the college football playoff and other postseason games, meaning bowl games, from airing during the annual Army-Navy matchup. So we know that college football playoff probably going to be expanding here in the next few years. But basically, that just keeps the broadcast window for Army-Navy, and that the playoff can't overlap, and that needs to be an exclusive window. I like that. I want Army-Navy to have its own spotlight and exclusive window here, but something's going to have to give at some point, whether this game gets moved altogether. I've talked myself into, and I'm really starting to just come around on this, I want Army-Navy to be week 0. Like, I want it to be the kickoff to college football season. I think it will alleviate a lot of problems that we have with the calendar and with the playoff expansion and all that, because expansion's coming, guys. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. You can get all mad and butthurt about it that you want it to stay at 12. Well, they're gonna keep expanding. Like, it's happening.
And like, even at 12, we're having trouble right now, right? So like, even like, notwithstanding doubling the playoff field right now, like we're going to be ending the season almost in February. This coming season, we had 2 rounds of NFL playoff football before the national champion was crowned in college football. So that weekend has kind of growing in a growing way. Felt like something's going to have to change, and I agree with keeping that like mid-afternoon, that primo window open. Like, I wouldn't mind a little appetizer of like the worst college football first round playoff game going right before it, and then like a decent one coming up after. Maybe like the Heisman people get all up in arms about that. And then the week 0 idea, I've come around to it. You're saying like you're in on it, which has sort of made me think about it more concretely. And really, my big like argument for keeping it in December is like, I like the midshipmen in wearing the big gray coats. I like the optics of that, but in option football in cold weather makes more sense to me. But other than that, the week 0 idea, it plays.
Yeah, week 0, or maybe make that the Sunday night Labor Day game or Labor Day night, like one of those two. Like, I think you can play around with it and move it to the beginning of the season and make it this like big celebration. Just call it like America's kickoff or something like that. Like,
look at this. Did you go to advertising school? My goodness.
Right? I'm trying to help. I was a marketing major for 2 semesters and then, had to change. But, hey, things happen. So, anyways, so that's interesting. And then the other one here, the NCAA approves changes to targeting, John, specifically when it comes to the suspension in a 1-year trial here for this season. So, basically, like, for 2026, a player disqualified for targeting the first time in the season can participate in the following game now. The trial rule will apply regardless of which half the targeting penalty is called. So before, like, if a guy gets called for targeting in the second half, he has to sit out like the first half of the next game or something like that, which has always just been such a stupid rule. I feel like I'm happy that they're going to try to have a trial run with this to get rid of it. I do think this is going to stick. The targeting thing just becomes such a headache all the time because it's like, what is targeting?
Yeah.
Half the time. And now you're going to take these kids off the field for a full game, basically, if they do it in the third quarter or something like that. So
yeah, and there's no like more like magical time to target. It's like, all right, get your licks in like at the end of the first half, boys.
Right?
You only have to miss a half. It's fine.
Exactly. So I'm glad they're doing this. I think targeting should become something more like flagrants in the NBA. Right, where we have like different levels and degrees, where like we're not taking guys off the field for the entire game, because especially if it's like an accidental one, where we see this happen like all the time. I believe the most famous one was like Clemson against Ohio State, right? I'm thinking from like the playoff a few years ago. I want to say there was a big one in like the second quarter where Clemson kid gets called for targeting on an Ohio State player, and it was just it was just a really bad call. But anyways, Clemson like loses their best linebacker because of it. So
Ben Boulware maybe
something like that. I think it was the COVID year too, or right before, or like right around in there. Anyway,
yeah, they played each other. Yeah, I think in 2020, and Ohio State won that game, and then Tough Borland tried to cover Bama, Devontae
right?
Smith. Yeah, that was bad.
That sounds about right. All right, so speaking of Alabama, since I mentioned that, John, are we buying in on the Ty Simpson hype train that is all of a sudden just gone completely off the rails this week? Because, well, one Dan Orlovsky of ESPN decided to say that he thinks he's quarterback one, QB1 of the upcoming NFL draft, this 2026 draft class, saying that Simpson's better than Mendoza. Orlovsky making these comments on First Take earlier this week, and then he goes on the media rounds. He gets absolutely obliterated, tag teamed, if you will, basically, on the Pat McAfee show, making some really questionable comments there when it comes to why he likes Ty Simpson. But yeah, Orlovsky has just gotten absolutely crucified for this take here this week. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's been a while since like all of sports Twitter and social media has united arm in arm against one guy in one take, but that is what has happened to Dan Orlovsky. Colin Cowherd, my guy, our guy, Colin, wouldn't even refer to Orlovsky by name for this take, just calling him NFL analyst at this point. He gets dragged on Twitter. Mel Kiper disputing Orlovsky's claims about like 13 to 15 NFL GMs agree with him or something like that. Kiper basically saying, I haven't heard that at all. And then Matt Leinart saying just like, take the L, bro, and move on. It happens to the best of us. Look at that. Matt Leinart getting shouted out back-to-back weeks here in 2026. But, yeah, and then the funniest part of this whole thing, John, was like, well, Dan Orlovsky gets like dragged on Twitter, and then he just like posts this photo from like outside of like a laundromat with the sign just saying, be kind to one another. So, like, dude, it's like, you got a bad take. We know, like, just own it. Whether, like, there was some, I don't know, if just fluffing up someone that has the same agency as you do or whatever, but like his whole like logic of just like that one comment that he made when they started talking about McAfee or when McAfee and those guys started talking about Mendoza, saying, you know, Mendoza did this in the biggest games, and then Orlovsky to say what big games, and then get like totally confused with the Big Ten title game, like kind of like, well, he was wrong about the score and all that kind of stuff too. But we have seen Fernando Mendoza just time and time again just do clutch drive after clutch drive after clutch drive and have all these tangible tools and all that kind of stuff, where we kind of saw Ty Simpson just really fade out in the second half of this year. Because I do remember us talking about this in October, where Ty Simpson was like a sneaky Heisman candidate, specifically after, was it the South Carolina game in October that we were talking about, like, oh, Simpson's actually playing really well. But then he kind of just fell off. I mean, that game against Oklahoma, to bring that game back up, just like kind of unraveled him for the rest of the season.
It did. And he was awful the second time against Georgia. He was like fine against Oklahoma, but then, you know, they got down big in that playoff game, and then obviously like literally nothing doing in the CFP game against Mendoza and the Hoosiers. So I think a couple things. So we're guys that have followed the draft since we were kids. Like we love the draft. It's the best. It's so fun. You're just kind of firing takes off. Like we remember the drafts with Eli Manning and Robert Gallery and like all this stuff, you know, more naming guys. So we know that there's a cyclical nature to like the news cycle that surrounds the draft. And I think in a year like this where it's not really flashy, we're getting a little bored. And when we get bored, what do? We get antsy. We start trying to formulate something, trying to get some spark going. What better way to do that than to reframe the quarterback question for this year? Like, are we sure that Mendoza is the best quarterback? And like, if we were to re-rank the last, okay, let's say like 3 classes of quarterbacks, like 24 last year and this year, like, is Mendoza number 1? No. Like he's not. He's behind at least a couple of the guys from at least the 2024 class. But beyond that, like I think at once that there might not have been there hasn't been enough critical eye towards Mendoza, but like to say that anybody in this class is a better prospect than Mendoza is intellectually dishonest. I think based on everything that we know, whether it's production, whether it's measurables, whether it's film, whether it's the intangibles, like Mendoza has the advantage over everybody else, not just Ty Simpson. So it feels like there's a bit of like an invention, like, hey, we got to find a way to make this draft a little bit more interesting. We have to find a way to make the quarterback discussion a little bit more interesting, because it was a snooze fest last year. It was like, okay, it's Cam Ward, and then we'll see who the hell gets picked second. Like it'll be Tyler Shuck, maybe it'll be Jackson Dart. Who gives a crap? They want to probably avoid that and drum up a little bit more interest this year. But the end result is when you want to manufacture something, the listening public is well within the rights to be like, you're full of it. Yeah. And that's what we have here.
Absolutely. And then the other thing that I'll just close with this, we do this every year with a quarterback, right? We find the one quarterback that's like, oh, this is the guy, his stock is just skyrocketing, right? We need to find out how we're going to get him into the top 10. And some years it does happen. Like Anthony Richardson went from a guy who people thought would be a day 2 pick to going 4th overall. I remember a couple of years ago, Jaden Daniels, like right when the first mock drafts came out, had him early 2nd round, maybe late 1st. Last year, Jackson Dart, we all thought like people were talking themselves into him going right around like 10 or 11. He doesn't go until 25. So we do this every year with a quarterback. Will Levis a few years ago too. Like, I do feel pretty confident though in saying that Ty Simpson is going to find his way in the 1st round. I just think it's going to be towards the end of the 1st round, kind of like in that Jackson Dart scenario last year. I don't think he's a top 10 pick. But
no, like the Jets could move back up, and they have so many picks, like they could pretty easily move around the way that the Giants did last year. Like one of the teams that's picking after the Raiders early in the 2nd round could easily move into the late part of the 1st round. There's really not that much difference pick value-wise between those, especially in what is a pretty shallow draft class where, like, I think if you talk to a lot of GMs, they'd say there's like 20 like 1st-round grade type of guys. So like you're entering like the same tier quality of player once you get past like the 25th pick this year or the 20th pick. Therefore, it should be pretty easy for one of those teams to maneuver. And the quarterback thirst, like you're saying, still exists. One of those teams that doesn't have a quarterback will go up and try to at least start the clock on one developmental piece.
Absolutely. All right, so I think that's going to do it for us this week. We went long enough, over 50 minutes. It was a fun one, as always. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. College Football Tailgate will be back probably with a lot more draft stuff next week because, well, John, it will be April the next time that we talk. Recorded, anyway, that we speak on the mic. So for John, I'm Dan. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you very much for watching.